bringing the latest technology to your home. The Swipe Report on Sky News is sponsored by Currys PC World and Ring.
Welcome to Swipe from one of the most polluted cities in the UK. But there's a reason that London's air quality is relevant to this week's episode. And with that in mind, the less time I spend out here talking to you, the better. So here's a quick look at what's coming up on this week's show.
Cleaning up the streets, Kit checks out the tech it's hoped will turn black cabs green. I look at a device designed by a dad to protect children from city air. And FIFA 18's arrived, but is it a title winner or a relegation contender?
That's all to come for you in the next 10 minutes or so. But before then, here are the tech stories that made headlines this week.
Dyson is planning to build an electric car by 2020. The British company, famous for its bagless vacuum cleaners, says it intends to spend £2 billion on developing solid-state battery technology to power the vehicles. Twitter's doubling its character limit to 280 in a trial for certain users. The company believes some of us find it harder than others to express ourselves within the standard 140 character limit. Japanese, Korean and Chinese languages are able to convey more in a single character. BT has topped a list of the UK's most complained about home broadband suppliers, and not for the first time. Ofcom information shows the company had 28 complaints per 100,000 customers from April to June. And a British tech entrepreneur and UNICEF UK business advisor is crowdfunding in order to roll out innovation labs in refugee camps. Emma Sinclair wants to support aspiring young entrepreneurs in Jordanian camps by giving them digital skills training and seed funding for their ideas. It's the first crowdfunding project of its kind for UNICEF.
In a moment, I'll be getting a look at a unique air filtration device designed specifically for children. Before then, though, I want to catch up with Kit, who this week has been hitting the road to investigate a new clean version of an iconic British vehicle.
It's almost as synonymous with the British capital as Big Ben or Buckingham Palace. The London taxi. In one form or another, this famous car has been getting people from A to B for more than half a century. But recently there's been a few bumps in the road. The smartphone revolution has led to big competition from apps like Uber. Despite doubts over its future in London, it's changed the way millions of us travel. Added to that, anything with a diesel engine is rapidly falling out of favour in our increasingly polluted city centres. So now the black cab is getting a very green makeover. It may have the classic looks, but under the bodywork is a new electric motor, and we're the first broadcaster to see it up close.
So Kit, here we are in the new TX, the new electric taxi. This is a range extended electric vehicle, which only powers the batteries, it doesn't power the wheels. It enables us to have an extended range, so up to 400 miles range. It has the balance, so we've got a good range in terms of pure EV, but what's important is that there's confidence around range, so there's no range anxiety. So having the range extender is a key part of that.
But there's a problem. Up until now, most electric cars like this one have found private buyers who charge them overnight or maybe while they're at work. But for taxi drivers, with the amount of miles they cover each day, that's not going to be good enough. They're going to need a network of rapid chargers on the roadside so they can recharge on the go or risk running out of juice. That needs a lot of power, because in London alone there are 24,000 licensed black cabs, and each one covers an average of 120 miles per day. That means that around 4 in 5 cabs will need to plug into a rapid charger in the middle of their shift. And to try and meet this demand, a network of 300 rapid roadside chargers is going to be installed across the capital by 2020. These powerful units can recharge a cab in around 30 minutes instead of around 4 hours from a standard station.
Charging hubs like this, where you have a selection of rapid chargers together, are going to be really important to keep that transport flowing, keep those electric taxis flowing.
And none of this tech is cheap. It's cost £350 million to develop the new taxi alone, and the firm's Chinese owners are banking on it being a global success. but are our cities ready?
I'm still not willing to get involved in, to even risk charging point rage, because I just don't want to sit in a queue. So until my charging session can be very short indeed, I'm going to be hard to convince on the charging point issue.
The test will be whether cities can get the chargers in the ground fast enough to keep up with the quickening pace of this electric vehicle revolution. Kit Bradshaw, Sky News.
In the UK, air pollution from transport and other sources reportedly leads to 40,000 premature deaths a year. Now that's not very nice to hear when you live in a city where smog is unavoidable. But some people are fighting poor air quality with technology, including one entrepreneurial dad who set up a crowdfunding campaign for his invention, which he says can clean the air around a child's head.
Breezy is a comfortable cushion that fits into the pram and filters the air in the baby breathing area.
Sounds simple, because it is. A personal air filter for your child that kicks into action when it senses high pollution.
Can we see it actually work?
Yes, so we have a working prototype.
Okay.
And we have some smoke.
We've got an system with some smoke here. Is this our pollution?
That's the pollution. We are making the invisible visible. You could see the air blowing out of here and clearing the smoke from the baby breathing area.
I see, yeah. There's air coming out of there.
Actually, the air goes inside here, goes through a dual layer of filtration, and the clean air blows from the other side and protects the baby from breathing pollution.
An early prototype from 2.5 years ago shows how the device has evolved since Yossi first came up with the idea after becoming a new dad.
So I was pushing my daughter along Finchley Road, and I noticed that when she sits in the pram, she's in the right height of the fumes that are coming from the buses that are passing next to the road.
As well as sitting level with the heaviest, most dangerous pollution particles, Yossi says children are particularly vulnerable to poor air because their immune systems haven't fully developed yet.
This unique and high-quality filter is a multi-layered, medical-grade, nanometric woven fabric.
Only when we got to this design, we realized that it's really working and we managed to sustain clean air in the breathing area of the baby. It wasn't enough for us. We took it to Surrey University, to the Clean Air Lab, headed by Professor Prashant Kumar. So he was measuring the ambient air and the filtered air and realized that we can sustain a clean air cloud in the breathing area of the baby.
How clean is that air?
So when the pollution levels are really high, we filter the air up to 80%.
The Breezy app visualises pollution data in the form of a real-time heat map.
Sensors that detect pollution and talk to the app on your phone could also be used for crowdsourcing information. Yossi's team say they want to create a community of people building data at street level.
So they're mapping where the most pollution is?
Yeah, that's right. And it's down to an individual street level, and we think that's really interesting because there's data out there at the moment, but nothing that's that detailed. People are going to be able to understand which streets are very polluted and which streets are not, and it can change quite a lot street by street, and people can choose the best routes.
Breezy is designed to stay with you and your child throughout the day.
You're going to make one for adults? You could do a baseball cap, couldn't you?
So
with a chin section, maybe.
We're thinking of other people who are exposed to pollution. Think about cyclists, and I wouldn't say more in that stage.
Oh, okay. So, but there'll be a lot more to come from you then, I imagine.
There is a lot more to come from Breezy.
Now, the last time we heard from our games reviewer, Rik Henderson, he was running around one of the world's biggest gaming expos for us in Berlin. This week, though, he's been firmly rooted in the Swipe Games studio. Here he is with his pick of some of the latest releases.
Well, it's the one we've all been waiting for.
FIFA games have topped the Christmas charts for as long as some Premier League footballers have been alive. But this FIFA 18 is the best yet. It genuinely has all the modes updated and refreshed. The Ultimate Team, as ever, allows you to build your fantasy squad of amazing players and play with those. But it's the Journey Season 2 that really has me excited. Teenage fictional footballing sensation Alex Hunter is back, but this time you get a much more say in what actually happens throughout his life. He ends up going abroad after a certain move, not to give too many spoilers, but let's just say that within his career there'll be more transfers than a tattoo factory. But the ability to actually change the story means that there's a lot more replay value in that mode, and it's quite frankly the best thing that I think FIFA has ever done. This is a genuinely beautiful game of the beautiful game. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite will definitely appeal to 2D fighting game fans.
It is time for the Dark Kingdom to rise!
Mainly because they get to use their dexterity and their octopus-like limbs to bash out as many combos as they like. But what I particularly like of it is it's also very accessible to newbies. There are multiple combos you can actually pull off with just a couple of button presses. You don't need that dexterity all the time. There's also the reintroduction of tag team modes where you pull in different characters from either the Marvel Superheroes universe or the Capcom Superstars universe. So you play a whole mishmash of different characters. There is a story mode, it is corny, and the graphics at times aren't particularly well rendered, especially for the new generation. It is a fighting game that, quite frankly, I can play because I'm not normally that good at them.
You see now how powerless you truly are.
The original Project Cars was a very complex simulation game created by fans of races for fans of races. And Project Cars 2 is very much the same, except much, much more. There are many more cars that you can actually drive this time and a lot more tracks. But the best mode that they've introduced is a career mode where you can actually start from karting or any of the different type of racing disciplines and eventually get to higher levels through a more organic way. So you learn as you go. And that sort of breaks up that hardcore simulation mode. And there's also so much customization of the game that simulation fans with a steering wheel will actually lap it up.
That's it for this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter @SkyNewsSwipe, then you can see what we get up to throughout the week. Join us again for more Swipe again next week. See you then. Bye-bye.
Bringing the latest technology to your home. The Swipe Report on Sky News is sponsored by Curry's PC World and Ring.